the top. Now, you are talking about models. Personally, I'm in and I'm sold out to the models that are built along the lines that our Lord Jesus Christ brought about. He practiced it. He had a model, and for me, his model is still workable, is still relevant today. Jesus' model was to go down to the grassroots, handpick his students, and then train them and give them skills at that level. And then after that, release them so that they can be able now to be able to influence the environment and be able to build up the kingdom of God from the bottom. So he touched lives at the bottom. He met the beggar. He met the blind man. He met the lame man. He met that woman who was poor. He met even foreigners, strangers who were in the land, who did not deserve his favor. But he did, and he touched their lives. Which means below them, there was nothing else to touch. So we were talking about the bottom line. So he was able to raise them upward because the only way was upward. And so he taught his disciples to do the same. That is a model of leadership that I believe is relevant even today, specifically for our African continent. I know there are many leadership models, but as I say, some of them are elitists. Some of them are elitists in the sense that the people that are picked or chosen to attend those colleges and universities where scholarships are offered for leadership, students who are doing leadership, they are specific to those who are gifted and those who are already well placed. And they're able probably to grasp the academic stuff and be able to move upward theoretically, be able to handle issues, not knowing that when these people have graduated from these universities and colleges of leadership, the chances of them going to the grassroots, to the bottom, to influence the bottom, the chances are close to nil. Because they would like to keep their status.
As a tip there.
You don't earn a university degree and then you go and work with the poor people in the villages. Young men who have degrees and university certificates, they want jobs which are plum, jobs which are well paying, and these jobs are only found in the cities and in the cities. But the model that we are talking about is a model that goes to the grassroots and influences leadership from the grassroots. So that the grassroots, who are the majority, they are able then to influence leadership upward instead of downward. I call it a bottoms-up approach. And that model is what Jesus used. And in a period of 3 years, he was able to train students and to release them into the world. And in another 60 years or so, the world was turned upside down.
When you talk about tilting the pyramid, so that the tip comes down, and then what is conventional, the bottom goes up. What happens? You've been to Rwanda in one of your albums. I saw Rwanda. You've been to that memorial. Is it a case of the masses had so much capability, but they were not treated the right way, so they decided to tilt the pyramid? And could it be the reason why a nation like Rwanda went down the downs?
I think with Rwanda, it was a case of bad leadership. Bad leadership at that time. And their model was basically foreign. It was not African model. It was actually foreign. And the same model has been used in many countries in Africa for political gain and for political control of the African people. I believe sincerely that before genocide, anybody who was looking at Rwanda then could easily predict what was going to come out. Because when propaganda, when animosity is whipped up among the citizens, and you know where it's whipped up? It's whipped up at the bottom.
Where the high numbers.
Where there are high numbers, where people are ignorant, where people are poor. So this tool of suppression is foreign to Africa. It's not African. It came from outside Africa. But being gullible, the leadership of Rwanda then, political leadership, took advantage of the poor. And they whipped up these negative sentiments. And it could be predicted. A few weeks before the genocide, it was easy to see where Rwanda would be.
The tunnel was heading.
And that's exactly where they got to.
It's unfortunate.
Very unfortunate indeed. Now, taking that line of thinking, Rwanda is regenerating itself, but using a different model. The leadership of Rwanda has understood the power that is at the grassroots, the power of the people. And it has realized if you influence the people correctly, because leadership is about influence. So you can influence negatively for destruction and oppression and dominion and colonization, or you can influence positively for strengthening them to be able to take up responsibilities and then scale it upward towards the top. So I think the model they're using now is influential. Because when I went to Rwanda, and I've been there more than once, you can see the people as the grassroots, they have come to understand that violence does not pay. So the alternative is to forgive my neighbor so that we can live in peace. So I saw with my eyes and experienced marriage between the two warring tribes. They are now they are marrying across. And though the pain may still be there in some areas,
but
there's a will. The will is strong to make it because they have been encouraged by the leadership that we have no alternative. That's the way we must go. And anybody going against the grain will have to face the legal music.
Wow. Let's come back home to Kenya. The BBI debate. What are your comments as a leader?
I wish you had asked me another question, but let me see. Let me connect this with BBI. Let first of all look at this way. This is my opinion. This, my opinion, is an opinion of an old man who has been in this country for many years. And I've observed something. All that's going on right now about BBI, for me, it would have been dealt with much earlier. But we did not deal with them. Let me take you back to the days of His Excellency the late President Moi, where we had a push for repealing of Section 2A so that we can have multipartyism in Kenya. Moi did the right thing because there was pressure. Moi was under pressure. But in the mind of Moi, there's something Moi understood, that Kenyans or Africans as such we don't need many parties. And that's why KANU, right at the beginning, and KADU those two parties became irrelevant.
Yeah.
So they had all kind of merged into one because the aspirations were the same. The people were the same.
The Kenyan dream was the same.
And the Kenyan dream was the same.
Yeah.
So you don't need two parties to pursue that dream. Remember that as early as pre-independent days, there was no talk of ethnicity.
Yeah.
We talked of patriots.
Nationalists.
And people who are looking forward to Kenya being redeemed from the white oppression. That was the agenda. And therefore, men and women fought to get Kenya independent then. But we started messing it up by creating parties. So at the beginning, the parties did work. So KADU, KANU, they were all merged and became KANU. So when President Moi was coming in, President Moi realized that Africans, we have not reached a point where we are matured enough to be able to handle parties. We don't even understand what political parties are. Because for us, we talk them as vehicles to leadership. Because they are not issue-based. If you look at their objects and objectives, there's no difference. So why are we doing this? So men in leaders in Kenya saw Moi as a dictator in that case. And that's what they were fighting against by creating more parties. So that when you have more than one party, then the dictatorship element will go. Instead of dealing with the dictatorship as one party, they decided the way to weaken it is to create more parties. Not realizing that these parties are not very useful. When you remove the dictatorship, then you remain with parties, then you have a problem. In fact, what ended up being, after repealing Section 2A, is that we were more fragmented
than before.
And that's the truth of the matter. And anybody saying otherwise is cheating us. Parties, political parties in Kenya, I don't know how many there are now. They have just fragmented us into parties, into groups
segments,
of people, segments, and sometimes even into sub-segments. And so, this is my belief that if it were possible, and Kenyans would decide, let us unite. We don't need political parties. In fact, we don't even need an opposition party. And BPI has brought that one very clearly to the fore. We can see that BPI, or what they call the handshake, which gave birth to BPI, it was simply an act that took place in one day, and within that one day, there is peace in Kenya. And parties became irrelevant immediately after the handshake. Can we look at that clearly? What exactly did that handshake mean? It simply meant...
taking us back.
It simply meant that all Kenyans need, including myself and my children and my family, all we need is to have a space where there's peace, where we can coexist with others, and where we have food, we can get food to put on our table. That's all an African needs. Peace and the space and freedom to be able to work out or live your life.
Actualize your dream.
Actualize your dream. That's all. We don't need political parties. So I believe BBI, coming to BBI now, BBI is a building bridges initiative, which means it aims by that name to bring us back to where we were, so that we can bridge the gap between the groups, Kenyan ethnic groups, so that we may be able to be one people. And if this one people is one party, there's nothing wrong with it. So you can see, and I said it without mincing my words, all these parties, including the ruling party, has become irrelevant. Nobody is talking about Jubilee. Nobody is talking about ODM. Nobody is talking about Fort Kenya. We're all talking about building bridges. So let us build bridges and be able to bring people together and just create that economic space, create that peace where our children can move, go to school, come back home, and they're safely. Hospitals are working, roads are being built. That's all we need. We don't need an opposition party because they are irrelevant right now. We don't need parties because they are just dividing us. And that's it. Joseph, that's all we need.
Wow. That's so clear. The American elections, there's been so much craze, especially in Kenya and Africa. I don't know whether it's because Barack Obama came from Kenya, but what do you think could be, as a leader, the faith-based and also in the academia and other corporate bodies, what do you think could be the probable implications of now a Biden leadership with regards to Kenya and the policies that may affect us?
Now, let me tell you clearly. There's a lot of hullabaloo going on about Trump and Biden. For me, that's irrelevant. This one is a cloud which is falling because America have their structure. They have their structure, legal structure, justice system. They know how to handle elections, and that's exactly what's going to happen. There is no problem in the politics of America. Americans will handle it. Now, two, Kenya has always been a friend to America. And our history goes back as long as I can remember, just like we have with Great Britain and Germany and other countries in Europe. The change of guard in the Americas will not change the position Kenya has with America. So Biden, he'll have he'll send his whatever,
and his
Secretary of State, he'll send his ambassador to Kenya, and the status quo remains.
So in other words, we have to fight our own battles.
In Kenya, we have our own battles we need to fight. America will not fight them for us. America is a development partner. Now, if, and this is true, even during Obama's time, whenever Kenya was out skirmishing within itself, the intra-conflicts, Kenyan conflicts, they have always advised Kenyans to solve the problem. They have always come as a friend. Please stop this and that. And they talk to leadership. So our issues, political issues, may not be at a certain level influenced by Americans, but they are our responsibility. So Biden will simply do what America has been doing with Kenya. And I believe it will foster unity because already the president of this country has sent his congratulatory message to Biden, and I believe all is well.
Wow.
So we need to work on ourselves as a nation.
We have to work on ourselves.
And Kenya is a great nation.
Wow.
Kenya is a great nation, very great nation, and we are proud to be Kenyans. But we need to work on our issues.
The Kenyan dream.
The Kenyan
is in
dream.
our hands.
We need to whip up Kenyan dream. We need to understand what's the Kenyan dream. It's the dream of every citizen of this country. If you ask a young kid in school, what do you want to be? You can hear what they say. If you ask a teenager, what do you want to be? You can hear what they can say. They all have a dream. So we can put all this together and be able to foster a Kenyan dream. Because every child wants to be great in this country. And they say, listen to this. One says, I want to be a neurosurgeon so that I can treat the sick people here in Kenya.
Not outside.
I can help the sick people here in Kenya, not outside. Here. I've gone to many nations of the world. But let me tell you, Kenya is a unique nation. I don't feel at home outside. I feel at home in Kenya.
Wow.
Yes, because it's a country of possibilities and prospects.
Now, before we take a break, 2020 has been a unique year for Kenya. Some may not want 2020 to come back again. You know, as politicians put it, reggae stopped playing and everything came to a standstill. Now, what is your comment as a leader on managing transitions like this during crisis? You know, let's talk about that after the break. Wow, no. Welcome back. We're talking about 2020, a year many will want to forget. What is your take on leadership in times of crisis?
Somebody said the crisis is a necessity if change has to take place. So we can decide to look at crisis. In this case, we had a major onslaught of COVID-19, which came upon us at a time when we were just beginning the year, and a lot of plans for the year and hopes for the year, school programs and educational issues. And also there are a lot of people, ordinary people, who had planned marriages and weddings in the year, and business prospects. But suddenly we had COVID-19. So that damages a crisis. Now, crisis brings about change. So anytime in life, before a change happens, there's always a crisis. And you can look at it across in every situation, that crisis is necessary for change. But we have the negative part of the crisis, which we have to handle, and then we also have the positive change. So change can have negative impacts. Change can also have positive impact. So we need to understand then, how are we going to mitigate the effects of change, the effects of crisis? 2020, to many, and I've heard many talk and say, is a year that has not been. It's a year that seemed to have passed by unnoticed. Yet, it's very critical, because in the calendar, 2020 still stands as a year.
It's part of the books.
When history will have to record it, when hundreds of thousands of people died because of COVID-19, and so much money was spent to mitigate the effects of COVID-19 worldwide. It's a year that changed lives forever. It changed habits forever, and challenged even some authorities forever. So we cannot wish 2020 away. 2020 must be included in the annals of history. It must be in our history books, complete with the pictures and photographs.
The negative.
And then, yes, we have to record it. It's recorded in history as a year when change came globally on all the nations of the earth. Now, the negative impacts are there. And as a nation, we have suffered the negative impacts. And these are fear. Fear. This disease has brought fear. This disease has brought death. And this disease has brought negative effects upon lives and families. And some have suffered from mental issues because of the impacts of COVID. Trauma after trauma. Families completely dismembered, and marriages set apart because of the impacts of COVID. However, there are positive impacts of COVID. And I think the positive outweigh the negative, in my view. We are still having COVID, it's not yet over, but we have come to understand that we now have to invest in health as a nation. We need to put money in health. We have to put money in education, because these were two main institutions that were affected by COVID-19. To the extent that nearly the whole year, children were home, and the subsequent related impacts, teenage pregnancies,
crime and all this.
Crime escalating, and these are impacting negatively on people and therefore even on the economy of this country now.